recently we traveled back in time to the 80s and reviewed Vice City for the PS2, which that game came out in the year 2002. And upon looking at the list of all the games that came out that year, I was like, damn, that's a pretty solid year, which begged the question, what are some of the highest rated games for the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, GameCube, Game Boy Advance? So on A Cast of the Past, we will be unleashing a special series of episodes and videos where we head over to metacritic.com and we look, we react, we debate about, hey, like, what does this say about that year of a specific console? We're going to be doing that right now with a brand new episode available every single Sunday on podcast apps and at youtube.com/acastofthepast, my friends. You can check out those sexy, shorter clips and videos that you can share at your disposal with yours truly, Juan Velas from Puerto Rico, joining me for the ultimate time-traveling device. Right, we're going to be checking out a really awesome generation of games from Boston, Massachusetts. Ryan McNulty, when talking about the PS2 and having recently reviewed Vice City for the 2002, like, how curious were you to check out just other games that came out that year?
I was very curious because this is a throwback to kind of our prime gaming generation, right? When we were old enough to be reasonably decent at games and have a little bit of money to be able to buy our own games from time to time. This is really our generation, so it's fun to go back because it's tough to remember what year was it, 2002, was it 2001, etc., when these games came out, but it's really a throwback, particularly at this point in time for me. I know we'll be talking about GameCube and, down the line, but my cousin had a PS2, so I still played a lot of PS2 during this year. So I'm excited to cover some of those top games.
Yeah, as I look at this list here, which for context, it's once again Metacritic. Each one has a list of 100 games. And looking at the PS2 one, it's like, man, 2002 was a really good rental year. I didn't buy a lot of games that year, but looking at this list, we have number 100, Test Drive, 99, Tribes Aerial Assault. And no, we're not going to be counting down every single game one by one, but just it's those games that it's in nobody's top 5 lists, but everybody's maybe checked out a trailer or something like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said, at this time for us, we weren't old enough to have jobs of our own yet, but eventually you'd build up some money, and once you had enough, I think it was $50 in this generation for a game, at least in the US. It was exciting to be able to purchase a game with your own money during this time. But yeah, tons of great games from the PS2 library. I mean, I think we got to talk about one game that you and I both know and are familiar with, and that is SmackDown Shut Your Mouth.
Oh yeah.
Now, did you play this around when it came out?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Like with the PS2 generation, I really transitioned from PS1 to PS2 because of the wrestling games. So every single one of them, like Shut Your Mouth, Just Bring It, which I believe was the year before. For context, this game got an 82. And for those who don't know about Metacritic, it's like a conglomerate of multiple reviews, not just one person. But man, SmackDown was awesome. I think that Just Bring It, which came out the year before, wasn't great. I was a little disappointed with it. I think Shut Your Mouth is like the really good soundtrack. Marilyn Manson, like that kind of like a cover that was at the menu, and the graphics. I mean, hey, Triple H's hair was the indication of the evolution of games, right?
Absolutely, yeah. This was a big jump from Just Bring It, which I played very little of. Just Bring It felt like it was still kind of lingering in the PS2 era. The PS1 era, whereas Shut Your Mouth felt like the real first PS2 wrestling game. And there was so many fun backstage areas in this game. I think you could climb to the top of like WWF New York or something and jump off of it.
Dives were just ridiculous.
There was so much crazy stuff. And the story mode, I remember being very detailed and involved, and you could walk around backstage and talk to people. It was like even the following game, they kind of dialed some of that down and made it a little bit, they kind of fine-tuned it. And that game is fantastic. Here Comes the Pain. But Shut Your Mouth, I think, had some elements that I found to be more fun. And I was a little disappointed when they removed some of that from the following game.
Yeah, now one game that's very interesting, when you look at this list, it's like there's two things, which is the games that you played, and then the games that, for example, at number 87, we have Fatal Frame. Now, when we talked about Silent Hill, this is like a really expensive game now, right? Like the original release of Fatal Frame goes for like over $80, and it has a Metacritic of 74. And even when the game came out, this is like a horror game. It's like spooky and all that stuff. But people said it's like not perfect, but I don't want to say it's aged like fine wine because I haven't played it. But it's one of those games that people say like, yeah, there's like the obvious Resident Evil and Silent Hill, but then there's other series like this one. Like, had you heard about Fatal Frame in 2002?
I have. When I was into first getting into Silent Hill, so this was probably 2010, 2011, I started picking up more PS2 games. I had a PS3 already, but I was trying to get some of those games. So I did pick up games like Okami, and I picked up games like Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. And Fatal Frame was actually on my radar, but I never actually got around to picking it up. And now I regret that, considering how expensive it is. But it's still a series that I know there's games for, like the Wii U that's coming to the Switch soon. So it's still a series I do want to try. So I might try that newer one coming to the Switch. I guess it's already on the Wii U. Maybe I'll get it for the Wii U if it's cheap. So, but yeah, still a series I want to get into. And this is really, I'm guessing, where it all started, if it's just called Fatal Frame, but I could be wrong about that.
Another game that shows up
would
here.
like to check it out.
Yeah, no, we're going to have to check that out. And it's like, we reviewed a lot of Resident Evil, Silent Hill, but it's great to check out like the hidden gems, like more obscure games. So who knows, maybe we can check that out in the future. But then number 67, here we have James Bond Nightfire 007. Got a 77 Metacritic. And I bring this one up because I feel like, you say what's your favorite James Bond game, it's almost like a legal obligation to say Goldeneye, right? But then there are other ones that are pretty freaking good, like Agent Under Fire is good. I really enjoy playing this one. Like, is it the best game ever? No, but there's something really cool about first-person, gadget-based stuff. Like the James Bond games, especially like early PS2, were pretty good. Did you play those?
No, the only one I remember playing, I think, was called like Rogue Agent or something. I know they tried to make one that was like GoldenEye Rogue Agent for either the Wii or the GameCube.
They gotta get that GoldenEye fame, huh?
Yeah, there was a couple times it's like either Xbox or Nintendo tried to capitalize on the nostalgia for GoldenEye, but it never ever hit that same stride. I think The World Is Not Enough for PlayStation was the last time I played a James Bond that was one of the last times I owned a James Bond game, I should say.
It's been a couple years.
I've not bought one since, but I do have now an N64 copy of that World Is Not Enough. I got it, found it on Facebook Marketplace along with a couple of other CIB N64 games. But no, PS2 era, I totally skipped the James Bond games. They never really found that popularity, but I'm sure some of them are definitely worth checking out.
They are super cheap. Like, no joke, at least if you check out Nightfire and Agent Under Fire, they are, I don't get why they didn't reach that same peak. I mean, look, N64 had a lot less first-person shooters, so I guess it's like big fish, small pond. With the PS2, it's like you did start getting a lot more of them, but they were pretty freaking awesome, and you can get them for like $5 or something.
Yeah, I mean, I think GoldenEye was it was just an anomaly, right? Because it really was that first console party FPS game and kind of took off when no one expected it to. And then I think people just moved on when games like Halo came out and people weren't looking for the fix they got from GoldenEye. There was other games that just did it better. And then I think people just kind of left the property in the dust. I think it was more the party FPS than the IP that carried GoldenEye.
True. I mean, ultimately, like, and that's a conversation we could talk about in the future in its own, like the whole 4 port thing. It's like, the wrestling games on the N64, like Mario Kart. How different would the N64 would have been if it only had 2? But we could talk about that.
Yeah.
That could be an hour-long conversation there.
There's so many tangents we could go
Yes,
off on. It's tough to stay focused.
Yeah. We could do it, though. We could do it, Ryan, man. Now, this game, like, when I think about the PS2, this is legit one of my favorite games, and it's one of those that you don't expect it to be good. At number 40 in this list, there's Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Did you ever play any of the Lord of the Ring games on PS2?
I did. I can't remember which one it was, but I feel like it was Two Towers. I played it at my cousin's house, but only a little bit, not really enough to get a sense of it. And I've seen a lot of people rave about this game, so it's something I definitely want to go back to.
No, it's seriously freaking awesome. Like, I was huge into Lord of the Rings, so it's one of those rentals where you're like, oh man, I'm getting a game based on a movie, and it's like an amazing hack and slash game. And look, the Return of the King on PS2 had online co-op. Like, who would have thought
Crazy
that
to think.
the third game in this? Don't play Fellowship, though, okay? Fellowship was based on the books, which, not that there's anything wrong with that, but it was not based on the movies. It was not the same developer. It is horrible. It's like your poor man Zelda. So if you want to review it with that mindset, Ryan, you got game essays for that. We're not touching that
yeah,
here.
that could be a fun angry style review if I ever want to go that route, but maybe I'll take a look at that. Yeah, it's something I want to go back to visit, is the Two Towers specifically, because I see it pop up on Reddit, the game collecting subreddit. I see that game pop up all the time. People are like, can't believe I just got this, like, steal. So I'm starting to get that FOMO, and I want to try it out.
I want to punch you, but I also love you, Ryan. Now, number 21. I mean, look, we got 100 games, people. Well, this is a taste. If you'd like us to go back eventually and talk a little bit more about this, let us know, and be part of the conversation at acastofthepast.com/Discord, where you can react, based on a lot of these games. And this one at number 21, Kingdom Hearts, got an 85 Metacritic. I think that this is the one that's in a lot of people's like top 10, maybe not necessarily top 5. I mean, it's a huge freaking deal, right? You got Squaresoft, you got Disney, you got them being, combined. Who didn't love Final Fantasy or at least knew about it? Then you got these super recognizable characters. I actually got this game day one, not on purpose. I went to EB Games, and then it's one of those things where I wanted to play something new, but I didn't know what. So the person asked me, what do you like? I'm like, oh, I played Final Fantasy X. They're like, oh, do you like Disney? He's like, what? I'm talking about Final Fantasy. He's like, what the hell? I didn't finish the game because I don't think I've ever enjoyed the combat and the movement in the Kingdom Hearts games, but you gotta say it's like pretty damn creative, because it could have been a cluster, and I don't think it was. What did you think?
Absolutely. This is one I've never really touched the Kingdom Hearts series outside of, I tried playing the DS one, and because the story is so
one of the 20 games that came out for Kingdom Hearts,
because you basically have to play every game to understand what was going on, I eventually gave up because I had no idea what the heck was going on. So I gave up on it, but I've seen my friends play this game. A lot of people I know adore this game, and it's just a series that I haven't touched, and again, something I would definitely be open to playing, but it speaks for itself.
I think when we talked about Vice City, it's like, look, the gameplay's not, you don't go to Vice City for the gameplay, you go to it for the world, the vibe, and I think in many different ways, Kingdom Hearts is very similar, because I mean, that soundtrack alone is just freaking amazing. So yeah, definitely something worth checking out.
Yeah, the opportunity to experience some of those Disney games, because we didn't back in the Genesis and Super Nintendo days, you might have gotten some of those Disney games, but around the PS2 era, you weren't getting too many of those, or you felt it was a little too kiddie at that point. So to have a more, like, I don't want to say the word mature, but you know what I mean? A more like all ages type of game where you still get to go back to those like worlds as a part of Disney, I think is a pretty cool experience.
Now, I'm super curious. I don't think we have ever talked about this series, and it's been dormant since the PlayStation 3, I believe it was. So this is at number 17 on the list, a Sly Cooper, and the Thievius Raccoonus. So we're not going to talk about Banjo, Ryan, but I do got to say, like, I know you'll love me some Banjo-Kazooie platformers. So to me, as an outsider, it would be like, man, this is right up Ryan's alley, but I don't think we've ever talked about this once. Did you ever play this?
I have not.
Ooh,
there's a lot. Like I said, I got a PS2 very late. So there wasn't, by the time like a lot of these games, a lot of these games had kind of come and gone before I really got to them, or I just didn't have enough time to get to them before I just kind of moved on. So again, another series, and I know there's a remaster, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, on
for this.
PS3, there's a trilogy, which I've wanted to get that copy, and it keeps going up in price. It makes me sad.
So another one that, hey, I complain about the death of platformers and cute characters.
You're contributing to the problem,
I contributed because I didn't play enough of them.
Damn you, Rhino, but I played the first one. I don't think I beat it. It's one of those rentals for me. So, man, you and me, we love platformers. We sure as hell did not buy them around this point. But, man, like, it's one of those games that I really didn't get the cel-shaded style. Like, we got a couple of games. We got Automodelista around that time. Beautiful Joe came out, I think that was 2003, if I'm not mistaken. But that style looks so damn good in this game, because it's like they're not going for realism, and a lot of games strive for realism, and then they fail miserably. So the fact that we got that, jumpy mechanic, this is Sucker Punch. They eventually made the Infamous games, and, I love the first Infamous game. So it is something that I personally want to go back to, because I do think those games are pretty cool.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that one.
And going from one, man, really? They both came out in the same year? Okay, I'm just like reacting to this live. Number 13, quick reaction here to the first Ratchet and Clank. I mean, this is a very relevant topic now. They had 4 Ratchet and Clank games, 3 or 4 on the PS2. They have a lot more because they even had some sequels on PS3. So this is one of the series that it's been there, right? This one did not lay dormant. Did you play any of the games?
Yeah, so I have, what was it? Future Tools of Destruction is
PS3.
the one. Yeah, the PS3 one. I played that all the way through, really enjoyed it. And then recently, that big game pickups I got, that I have a video on my channel about, I got, I think, almost all the PS2 Ratchet and Clank
I hated
games.
you for that.
Yeah, so yes, it's definitely on my radar because I really enjoyed Future Tools of Destruction, and I know like games like Up Your Arsenal and stuff are really revered. So I'd love to go back and play a lot of those because I really liked the concept and all the different weapons you get and upgrading them and everything. There was some really awesome weapons in the one that I played. So I'd love to see what different ones that they have in some of the other games. And basically, I'd probably just go back and start where it began with the 2002 original.
Yeah, that would be a great starting point. I don't have them physically with the exception of Tools of Destruction, but digitally on the PS3, you can get a lot of them for like very, very low price. So back in the day, a couple of years ago, I got the trilogy, the HD trilogy for next to nothing. Plus there's that reimagining because the game that came out on PS4 is a retelling of the first game. So it's not a remaster, but it's kind of a remaster tying into like the movie that came out, which I never saw it just because I don't really like to watch movies based on games. But that's another story.
I was for sure I was like certain that was going to be the first good video game movie, but apparently the reviews are really bad.
Yeah.
So it's it just felt like, okay, they make so many great animated movies.
Exactly. It's like, think of the pool they were swimming in. It's like, look, don't even do that. A game I got to quickly react to, we've talked about GoldenEye and all of this, but this is my jam. This is maybe my top 5, honestly, for PS2. It's Time Splitters 2. That and its sequel, Future Perfect, awesome games. The first one, it's a kind of a generic first-person shooter, but this is one that I think you would love. Have you played this one?
I've not. I remember
you gotta play it.
Yeah, I remember in middle school, I had a buddy who raved about this game. Like we would talk, like found out we were both into similar video games, and he was always like, Time Splitters 2, you gotta play it.
It's so good.
I still never played it. I'm the worst.
No, legit, man. It's just an amazing game because it's essentially the GoldenEye gameplay. Even a lot of the music isn't. I'm gonna say inspired by, but inspired is putting it loosely sometimes. But the multiplayer is freaking awesome. You can make your own multiplayer maps. Like there's just so much meat on that bone. Like it is one of those rare first-person shooters, and I'm like, man, that could be a future review because I know for a fact you're gonna just love because there's a time travel element, so every level is just very different. Now, two more games I want to quickly bring up before we move on over to the box with the X is Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. So that one came out in 2002. By this point, like, look, we've reviewed Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. We've been open about our love with this. By the time the fourth game came out, how were you feeling?
This segment is all about me not playing games. So Tony Hawk, right? I played the first 3. I skipped 4.
I think a lot of people. I don't
and then
think
I
you're
played
alone in
Underground. Yeah. So this is the Tony Hawk of like the early years, like of this generation, because obviously there's a lot of later Tony Hawk games that I have not played. But yeah, 4 was just the one that I missed, and I went straight to Underground.
I actually did play it, and I thought it was really good. It's one of those things that, look, even if I love that cake, you have given me so much of it by this point. I was like, dude, I need a break. Like,
I think after 3, people were a little bit burnt out, which is why like Underground was great because it just reinvented everything.
Exactly.
So
it needed something different.
Yeah, 4 seemed like the formula was definitely wearing a little thin at that point.
And I mean, that being said, it is number 3, is it? Yeah, it's number 3 in this list. So it's got a Metacritic of 94, which is pretty freaking amazing, right? Considering the fact that it's the 4th game.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were still extremely well made. It just might have been, the fatigue at this point. But I'm sure, it could just be me. Sales, I'm sure, were fantastic. I don't know.
Exactly. And I am going to give you an honorable mention right at the end there, but I just want to quickly bring up number 1. I mean, this is to the surprise of nobody. Grand Theft Auto Vice City. We just put out a full review on this, so you can hear, word for word, second by second. We literally, no, not to that extreme, but we just talked about our love with that game. And in my case, like, if you want to hear the reception of somebody that never played it back in the day, and I played it for the very first time, you can check that out there. But unsurprisingly, Grand Theft Auto is just overwhelmingly not just the PS2 game of the year. It was many people's favorite game of the year. But in your case, Ryan, when we go to number 2, I was surprised to see this in here. It's Madden NFL 2003, which also got a 95. It got as high of a score as Vice City. And I know nothing about football, so whatever you say, I'm just going to assume it's right.
So I was definitely not. I mean, I enjoyed games like NFL Blitz, and I would play the occasional football game for sure. So this is not the era that I was playing football games, but I've watched many videos detailing the downfall of the Madden series. And at this point in time, the Madden series and the NFL 2K series were very like head-to-head competing, trying to outdo each other. And these games at this time leading up to, I think, like the pinnacle in 2005, which is where people say like NFL 2K5 is still one of the greatest football games ever made. And there's a lot of things that still haven't been matched. But, the years leading up, these games were jam-packed with features and ridiculous details about like going through season mode, each player having their own contract and like negotiating and looking at their stats. And then you could go into years and years and years of these season modes where players would retire and then they'd become coaches and all this stuff. Like the amount of detail that they put into these games is crazy. And they built it up all through like the 2000s. And then at some point around 2010, 2011, once 2K was completely out of the picture and had been a few years, the Madden games have just been completely gutted of a lot of this detail. And some of it, they're doing its job of actually simulating football. There's still things in like the game from 2005 that does it better than today.
Wow.
No
Yeah,
lie.
isn't there like an NCAA game that's like super expensive because people still prefer that one?
Yeah, and there was like I think 2K made like an all-pro football game like a couple of years ago. That's still like it's like a much better simulation than like the last several years of Madden. So basically, this was when Madden was still really churning out quality titles and actually wasn't just a roster update year after year. And had, like now their whole model is around, you know, the microtransactions with like the cards mode. You know, it's similar to like GTA Online. They found their revenue stream and they're just hammering away with that. But yeah, you might, looking back now, it seems a little crazy to have Madden as number 2. But at the time, it may, you know, it actually kind of deserved it. The amount of detail that they put into those games, it was actually deserved.
So for everybody watching and listening, you know, we can't possibly talk about every single game here, but, you know, we love reacting to these lists and just seeing, it's like as an outsider that never played a football game, it's kind of crazy just to see, you know, Madden in a number 2 spot here. But once again, it's at castofthepast.com/Discord. We have a video game channel, food channel, all that good stuff there. And let us know what you think about the highest rated PS2 games, topping off with Vice City. Hey, thanks for checking out the video. If you liked it, please consider subscribing, and we are also available on podcast feeds. So search the name, click on the sword and stone, and enjoy a brand new episode every single Sunday.